So good news, everyone. Twitter is no longer safe for activists, say the left-wing activists who I didn't want Twitter to be safe for. So it looks like we're winning, lads. Everything's going great. The march continues. But before we begin, today we've got our Lads Hour, which Harry just announced. But to go along with the Lads Hour, we have a promo code. So the Lads Hour is going to be a Q&A where we just sit for a couple of hours and talk to you guys about the third birthday of LotusEaters.com and this podcast. Thank you, everyone, by the way, for staying with us, watching, subscribing, making sure that we can have lights and screens and things like that, because it's all paid for by you guys. So if you want to sign up, you get 3 months at 33% discount if you use birthday as your code, sign up. Now, for those long-term subscribers going, hey, don't we get anything? You do. It just wasn't ready today. I really wanted it to be ready. It was just, these things couldn't happen. So next week, we will unveil a birthday surprise for our long-term or just any subscribers, really, because we haven't forgotten you. We just couldn't get it done in time. But if you want to sign up, 33% off 3 months, and that supports us, that keeps all the lights on, and you get access to our massive library of excellent premium content. Connor is just recording an interview with Eric Kaufman at the moment.
As we speak, yeah.
A big fan. I'm a big fan of his because I just think he's a really valuable voice in the discourse right now. And I imagine that's going to be an amazing conversation. So go and sign up. You'll be able to see it. Anyway, so let's begin because this...
I think the buttons have stopped working.
Okay, that's fine. I'll use the mouse. There we go. John can do it. Right, so back in February, ages ago now, not in the before time though, I did have my Twitter account at this point, but a few months, 3 months after Elon Musk had purchased Twitter and gutted it like a madman. You can see Amnesty International like, oh no, there's wars and genocides going on around the world, but our Twitter activists are upset, therefore this is going to take priority over all of that. I'm not going to be talking about wars and genocides and human rights violations or anything like that. No. We're talking about hate speech on Twitter because we're Amnesty International. We cover very serious and important topics. So they complain that social media giant Twitter is failing to protect LGBTQ plus organizations. Good. I don't want these organizations protected. But what are they failing to protect them from? Quote, online violence.
I assume this means online speech.
Which is obviously not violence. I mean, what does online violence mean as a phrase? Violence is physical activity. Tweeting at someone is not violence.
Typically, it's meant you've hurt my fifis.
Yes.
That's all it's ever meant.
That's precisely what I mean. There is no such thing as online violence. There cannot be, definitionally, any such thing.
Well, if we're talking about the LGBTQ yada 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 community,
the violence against their sensitivities,
the violence against their sensitivities, there are certain sectors of that community who you would say are a higher risk. If you say something nasty, they might do something violent to themselves.
Hey, that's not online violence though. That's physical violence in the real world that they may well do to themselves. But when surveyed, a bunch of people, left-wing activists specifically, who they're citing in here, said that experienced a higher level of abusive and hateful speech. Right, the word violence dropped off there, didn't it? Like, oh no, it's abusive and hateful speech. Yeah, but what happened to the violence? I want to know how many wounds were inflicted. What was the casualty figure for this? And it turns out that none, actually. So people were disagreeing with them, basically. The survey targeted 11 LGBTQ plus organizations, as well as 9 high-profile LGBTQ plus individuals who advocate on LGBTQ plus issues. And I believe everything that they say. I certainly don't think they think this is part of a narrative they're going to try and construct in order to force Twitter to do what they want, instead of just allowing Twitter to be a fairly neutral platform.
I always trust incredibly selectively biased surveys conducted by pressure groups on behalf of pressure groups. That's how I know I'm being told the truth.
Exactly. The whole thing is just such a caricature of what like any real world sort of journalism or activism or advocacy should look like. It's just a bunch of really bizarre people saying, hey, I'm getting my feelings hurt a lot more now that people are allowed to talk back to me. This is unacceptable, right? 9 of the respondents tried to report abuse to Twitter, and 8 out of the 9 said that Twitter took no action to mitigate or take down the reported content. Lamau.
Okay. All right.
Good. I can't silence my opponents. How has this happened?
Well, I mean, these organizations most of them will be staffed by the same kind of freaks that you imagine, and a lot of them will be staffed by oversensitive female harpy HR managers.
Well, you say female, but I mean, like, that's definitely up in the air. Who knows?
Well, I mean, how can you tell the difference?
Very confused people.
Yeah, very confusing. But it reminds me of at the beginning of October when Survive the Jive and other people put out their incredible responses, and we put out our incredible response to the horrible history, Black Britain, Black Roman Britain thing. And I heard from sources on the inside that a lot of these organizations had media departments that were staffed almost entirely by women who were weeping and crying and bawling their eyes out because they were running around going, all of these evil white racists are saying that this isn't true what we're saying. Why would they say this?
I want to reframe this. It's not just women, it's left-wing activists.
Well, this is the reports that I received.
Yeah, but it's not like, a bunch of based right-wing women are like, oh no.
Obviously, but I don't think it's going to be based right-wing women who are going to be staffing the media departments of big news organizations.
Exactly. So I think it's worth making the distinction, just so ladies watching don't feel like we're unfairly characterizing them in the same.
Of course, I don't think any of the women watching this are smart enough to know to disaggregate themselves.
But anyway, let's continue, because the wins just keep coming for us. 60% of the respondents said that the hateful and abusive speech had impacted how they use the platform, including posting to Twitter less frequently, sharing less information regarding their work, and limiting who they interact with on the platform.
Oh, great. It's working.
Exactly. That's just exactly what I wanted Elon to do, and he's done it.
Well, this was what was that alternative?
That's just so great.
What was that Japanese alternative that they all went to or said that they were going to go to?
Not like Mastodon.
Yeah, Mastodon. That was the alternative.
It's Japanese, but
I think its servers are held in Japan, which is
right.
And it had, if I remember, I reported at the time, it had such a problem with certain content that Elon was trying to eliminate from Twitter that they had to disable the search function on the website. Because I went on it and was like, okay, what are people? Is this an actual viable Twitter alternative? That's strange. I can't search for anything on here. And they disabled it because it was such a prevalent problem on the site that if you searched for anything, it would pop up.
That's interesting. I didn't know about that, because the only thing I knew about Mastodon is a bunch of really hardcore Nazis used it. And I'm not sure there's a block function on it, because it's like this decentralized thing.
So that was, I think that was the main reason why they couldn't get rid of it.
Yeah.
Why they had to disable the search function, because it was a bunch of decentralized servers mainly focused around people in Japan.
Yeah. So I had a friend of mine who uses Mastodon because he is very, very extreme. And he was sending me loads. He was just DMing me loads of posts where they're like, hi, Mastodon, I'm here. And it was just Nazis, just I can't say any of
swastika.
Yeah. I can't say any of the things that they were replying to. So like, it's, just progressive journalist. I'm from the New York Times. I'm here to use Mastodon. It's just this and they can't block it. So it's just like
that's fantastic.
I know. I don't need to laugh so much, but it was really funny. Anyway, so the activists and the organizations were reporting that they were posting less frequently to Twitter, which is just brilliant. Michael Kleinman, Amnesty International's USA Senior Director of Technology and Human Rights. Weird dual hat to wear, isn't it? Twitter must do more to protect LGBTQ plus activists and organizations on the platform. Twitter considers itself a digital town square, yet the town square where the LGBTQ voices are all too often shouted down and silenced by constant hateful speech and harassment. Right? A, organizations don't need protection, so go away. But B, right, so you're complaining here. The game is no longer rigged. The game used to be rigged. When someone tweeted at me, I would report them and they'd get their account suspended, and therefore I had free speech. But now everyone has free speech on Twitter. The game is no longer rigged, and I'm just constantly getting drowned out by thousands of people telling me to piss off. And I don't like it. That's all this amounts to. Kelly Robinson, the president of the Human Rights Campaign, said, social media's outside importance in our lives means that platforms like Twitter have an obligation to provide a space free from violent rhetoric and harassment, an obligation they have long ignored. Okay, or what? Nothing. That's what. So if we go to the next one, that was back in February, but come November, now, this month, oh dear, the same problem is still occurring. A year after Elon Musk bought Twitter, X is now a worthless platform. Some say it's no longer safe for activists.
the whole point of all social media organizations since the beginning has to provide a safe space for activists.
Not just any activists, left-wing activists.
Leftist activists.
Exactly. So because
I will push back slightly and say there are still problems with Twitter.
Yeah, of course.
And there are still people who you could say are denied a voice on it. For instance, Alex Jones, I believe, still doesn't have access to his account primarily because of Elon's personal animus against him. So you can't say that there's a free speech absolutism on the platform because Elon is still allowing his own personal feelings. And there might still, we don't know, but there might still be back-end interference from intelligence agencies going on. There more than likely is.
More than likely is.
But it is better than it was.
I'm not saying that Twitter is a perfect platform. I'm not saying it doesn't have problems. I'm saying that the left are losing on Twitter, and I love it. I love watching them lose, right? As they complain here, Elon, it's been a year since Elon took over. Walk in, you remember? Let that sink in. Love it. Love what he's doing. Love everything about this, right? Over the past 12 months, Mr. Musk, they call him, has gutted content moderation. Brilliant. Restored accounts of previously banned extremists. Hello. And allowed users to purchase account verification. Love everything about this. The Bluebird logo has disappeared.
Are people still earning loads and loads of money off of the tweets that they put out if they're verified?
Some people are. I'm not. I'm getting about $250 a month. Don't get me wrong.
It's more than I'm getting.
Yeah, I'm glad to get $250 a month. But some people are getting like $4,000. I'm like, how am I not getting that? I'm getting millions of anyway, right? So they're complaining that look, it just feels less safe on Twitter. It's like, good. I don't want you to feel safe on Twitter. I don't want you on Twitter. I want you to go away of your own volition. I don't want you suspended. I don't want your account, terminated by Twitter because then I can't tweet at you. I just want you to feel like I don't really like that platform and I'm going to go to Mastodon where the Nazis are hanging out. I want you, because I view you as the same kind of extremist as they are, just on the very other side.
Well,
just someone who's just a total, they make every space they're in toxic, the left, and I don't want them in there.
Well, yeah, I think the maybe most viable alternative for them to go to is I think there's Threads on Instagram.
We'll get to it in a minute.
Right.
It's just funny how that didn't pan out, right? And of course, they say, well, look, US media, including Fortune and Bloomberg, are reporting that a new employee stock plan shows that X is only worth $19 billion. Okay, but that's $19 billion that's shared between like a quarter of the staff. So if it's half the value, but between a quarter of the staff, they're all doing better. But even then, it shows it wasn't about the money, maybe. Like Elon went on Joe Rogan, who's like, look, I just felt that it was just destroying civilization. And so maybe it's not about the money. I'm not saying Elon's the world's greatest guy, but he's done a lot of things I really approve of, and he's really personally helped me out. So anyway, so while many have been enthralled by the apparent demise of Mr. Musk's social media platform, and you know what, you can tell the demise of a social media platform by the fact that everyone's talking about it nonstop all day, every day, right? They're always posting articles. Twitter's doing this now. Twitter's doing that now. I'm not happy with what's happening on Twitter because you can tell that's how that's dying.
When the primary competitors of a particular platform, because Musk has said explicitly he wants it to be a place where people can break news before the mainstream tabloids and the mainstream media can get to it. Yeah. And he joked that most of what you see in the headlines is whatever was posted on Twitter the day before.
Which is totally true.
All of these people are competitors of Twitter, and they're constantly going on about Twitter's dead this time. It's really gone now. This any day now, it's going to shut down for good. It's just competitors trying to almost like spiritually manifest from the ether this will. We want the will to power for Twitter to shut down, but they can't. It won't.
But they complain that Mr. Musk's lack of regulation has opened the floodgates for hate speech against marginalized groups and for misinformation. X far from resembles the town square space Twitter once carved out on the internet, where journalists, academic, and activists could share information, campaign, and address threats around the world. That's not true. That's all happening. It's just you get to hear what the right wing actually thinks now.
Well, yeah, they mean that they had it nicely corralled, so it was only their acceptable activists and journalists and academics being able to say things that they already agreed with. Now they hear opinions of those who they disagree with, and this is heartbreaking. It's tragic. And
Yeah.
there's no way of dealing with it if you're a leftist because you're a ball of neurosis.
Yes, it wasn't perfect, but it proved extremely powerful in enabling freedom of expression, which is why we needed to silence a bunch of other people and make sure they don't have freedom of expression, right? It amplified marginalized voices and mobilized social justice movements, such as the Arab Spring, Black Lives Matter, and Me Too.
Do platforms do outlets like ABC and the other big ones, do they still feign some kind of neutrality in their news reportings?
I bloody well hope not.
They shouldn't do, but they really do a bad job of it now. If there's one thing
Yes.
that I can say is an unequivocal good over the past few years, it's revealing to normies, I would say, just how politically biased a lot of these platforms are. A lot of people already knew and already saw it, but it's very obvious to anybody because they don't even try and hide it.
Oh, it's wild these days, isn't it? And so they're constantly complaining there are no moderators to keep the site from being overrun with hate, or having the executives in charge of making rules and enforcing them. So that just essentially says we can't spew a bunch of nonsense without being able to silence our detractors. It's like, yep, that's good. The single biggest thing that there's been basically is basically the eradication of trust and safety teams across Twitter. Right.
Who's going to employ the feminists now?
Yeah, exactly. Where are they going to work now? Like, we don't have jobs where we can just go and get caramel lattes on demand. Oh, that's such a shame. That's such a shame. But they do say, look, there are actual real problems from this. For example, in Myanmar, Twitter has played Burma, for anyone who is traditional minded, but Twitter has played a crucial role in helping people share information and giving them a voice since the 2021 military coup. Yadana Maung, Justice for Myanmar spokesman, said that cybersecurity.
Nice try.
I gave it my best shot.
Nice
right?
try.
I gave it my best shot.
Sooner you than me.
Yeah, I know, right? I should have been practicing it before the podcast, really. But they say that the cybersecurity and privacy threats have increased for the group since Musk's takeover, and so too has the platform's compliance with requests from authoritarian regimes, like the European Union. Because this month, the European Commission announced an investigation into X for alleged dissemination of bogus information and terrorist conflict regarding the conflict between content regarding the conflict between Israel and Hamas. It's like, okay, so these ones don't want the anti-content, but when these ones don't want their anti-content, oh, these ones are the good guys. It's literally, I mean, I don't want to be like, oh, friend-enemy distinction. It's a bit cliched, but it's so obvious that that's what this is. It's just, this is good for us, and therefore we like it. That's bad for you, therefore we don't like it.
If you don't want to say friend-enemy distinction because you think it's cliche, just say in-group, out-group.
Even then, that's just cliche. It's just cliche to say, like, oh, they're just doing this because it's theirs.
If it's
doing
true,
it against you because it's yours. I know, but that's the thing.
It's just true. It's self-evidently obvious.
It's self-evident, and it's not really a very interesting or deep analysis, but that is really what this is about. Like, it's not about...
Well, it doesn't need to be deep. I think that's honestly, for most people...
I know, but that's what I'm trying to provide.
I think that's where their thought process ends. Are they on my side? If so, it doesn't matter.
I don't think most people do think that. But the activists do think that.
The activists certainly.
The activists, that's how this works. And that's why Twitter is a right-wing platform now, basically. But Professor Lever says that anyone who's still on X after relying on the platform for years as a valuable space for public debate was hanging on by the skin of their teeth, wishing there was somewhere else to go. You've got loads of other options. You just don't want them. You're just really annoyed and you really want to use this one. But I mean, you can use this one. It's just not going to be a safe space, and other people will get to push back. That's just...
And these people, they can private their accounts.
Yeah, but they want the likes and the clicks and the engagement. And if they do that, then but they just want a megaphone and to never be challenged. And Elon has just been like, no, look, you're all going to have a discussion about this, and they hate it. And so that's why they're on the verge of leaving Twitter.
If you appreciated that episode from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as the Lads Hours, this one on male role models. If you'd like to find out what else is being put out, you can follow on Twitter at lotuseaters_com on Twitter. Thank you and goodbye.